Welcome to FSHD Straight Talk, the podcast where we dive deep into living with FSHD. I'm your host, Tim Hollenback, and I'm on the journey with you. Having FSHD, I understand the challenges it brings to patients and their families. We're in this together, and this podcast is a space where we swap stories, share advice, and talk to experts to get the latest news. There's plenty to say about living with FSH muscular dystrophy, so let's get straight to it. Welcome all to FSHD Straight Talk podcast. I am your host, Tim Hollenback, and thanks for joining us again for another episode. We have been on doing this, I guess on air, I wanted to say, but we've been recording these episodes for quite a while. It's like 8 years or so. We've had great guests, great researchers on. We've had fundraising events that have been kind of helped funnel those through here, and some great history. And today we're going to talk a little bit about that with our guest, Jim Chin. He is the chairman of the board of directors for FSHD Society. He's been with the society for quite a while. His son had FSHD, and so did his wife. He also has a daughter, which he talks about her and how maybe he believes she doesn't have it, and a grandson that he hopes doesn't. And that's part of what drives him to continue the work he's doing within the FSHD Society. He talks a lot about the then and the now and how we got there. And people like Mark Stone, who have been critical in that involvement, the volunteers. See, I met Jim at the Volunteer Leadership Summit, as they call it, in Chicago, just this past end of January, early February. And it was great to meet him. I did a little bit of a speaking event. I was very flattered to be asked to do that. I had a blast. It was fun to meet all the people. I haven't been there since the first one. And then there I met Jim as well. And it turns out it was the first one he was at, as we talk about that too in this episode. But listen to what I believe is the main focus, or the tie-in, or more importantly, the common thread of what has built the FSHD Society. And that is, to me, the commitment, the connection, the community, and the communication that happens throughout that. It is phenomenal to learn about it through Jim's voice and through his perspective. So I'm really excited to bring this episode to you. If you want to be a guest on the show, you can do that easily. Just email me, fshdradio@fshdsociety.org. The FSC Straight Talk podcast is really driven by you, the stories, the people within the community. Research is great. Want to hear that. Always will give you the up-to-date things that come through as they do. But this is really about how this disease affects us, affects our caregivers, family members, and we bring those people here to talk about coping with the disease, managing our lives regardless, and so on. And I think Jim talks about that as well, of how we can even get involved. And hopefully it motivates you to do so if you're a person that's maybe on the cusp but not sure. Also, please follow the show, share the show anywhere you find podcasts. I know I find all mine on Spotify. We are there as well, along with like Google Podcasts and so forth. Find us. If you can review, great. If you can, follow is fantastic. Sharing is the most important thing. Let people know about this podcast so that the people we have on here, when they share their stories, they can share it with as many people as possible. So without further ado, on with the episode, with our conversation with Chairman of the Board of the FSHD Society, Jim Chin. Hi, everyone. I've got some exciting news for you from the FSHD community. If you've ever felt the unpredictability of FSHD, or wish there was, more accurate research and information out there, and I know you have, then listen up. I'm thrilled to tell you about Better Life FSHD, a groundbreaking new research platform from the FSHD Society that's changing the game for those of us living with FSHD. Better Life is your one-stop hub for tracking symptoms, accessing personalized resources like articles and videos relevant to you. And the best part, as you take surveys and track your symptoms, you provide FSHD researchers with better data to understand this complex, understudied disease. And a better understanding can lead to faster treatments, something every one of us can get behind. So head over to betterlifefshd.org and join the study. It only takes a minute to get signed up. Together, we can change the future for everyone affected by FSHD. I've done this. It's a simple process. I challenge you to do the same. Again, that's betterlifefshd.org. Now let's get back to the show. As promised, we have this exceptional interview set up for you here with Jim Chin, or James Chin, as some might know him as, one of our board members, part of the FSHD Society. Welcome, Jim. Thanks for being a part of the show. I think this is your first time being on the podcast.
It is. Thank you. I appreciate you inviting me, and I'm anxious to tell everybody what's going on at the FSHD Society.
That's nice. In the business, Jim, we call that a teaser. That's perfect. Look at that. It's awesome. So, first off, I mean, do you have FSHD, and what's your tie-in with FSHD?
Okay, I do not have FSHD. My wife had it. She was diagnosed in her mid-30s, and our son had it, and he was diagnosed between 10 and 12 years old.
Okay. And so did your wife know, I mean, prior to your son being diagnosed then? Like, how was that timing?
Okay, so what happened was there was a school nurse, and her husband was an MDA neurologist.
Oh, wow.
And she observed my son, and she suggested to my son that she take Jimmy to our pediatrician, who happened to be taught at the University of Rochester. So the pediatrician talked with Barbara and Jimmy, and he asked Jimmy to do a few things like whistle, raise his arms, a couple of other things, and he diagnosed Jimmy as having FSHD right on the spot. And then he suggested that Jimmy leave the room, and he asked Barbara the same, diagnosed her on the spot. So she didn't know she had FSHD till she was in the mid-30s. And we didn't know that Jimmy had it until he was about 10 or 12. But he had, he was living a normal life of a teen, a young man. So, we know he ran a little slower and he wasn't as well coordinated, but that was
right. So, I mean, everybody's different, right?
Right. So what happened was that at age 23, after graduating from college and working a little, Jimmy was engaged to be married. The engagement broke up, and unfortunately, between the FSHD and the engagement breakup, Jimmy took his own life.
Oh my goodness.
So, our family worked through that. We have a daughter as well who doesn't have it, as far as we know. And then in 2014, my wife passed away. 2016, my wife passed away. She had FSHD and COPD. So, and making a long story short, in about 2016, I guess it was, or 2006, I went to a FSH patient conference, and Dan Perez said that he needed some help. And so I volunteered to be a board member and was accepted. And I joined the board in January of 2007. So I've been on the board for approximately, this is, I think, my 18th year.
Wow. So you've been around the society and the community within FSHD for quite a long time.
I have, and I've seen it grow so much. It's unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. When I joined, there were 4 people at the society. 5 if you include Dan's mom. 5.
Holy cow! And now there's
now
volunteers and leaders.
20. Now we have about 20, and it's not just we just all these people have a lot of work to do, and they're doing a whole lot of programs for patient advocacy and research and stuff like that. So we've grown a lot under the direction of the last almost 8 years of Mark Stone, and Mark has really helped us go from slow to jogging quickly.
Yeah, that he has. And he's a good motivator, right? I mean, Mark gets
He's
a
an
great keeping
excellent
people going.
communicator. He knows that he knows about bringing drugs to the market. He's he's helped us, communicate with like the FDA and the NIH and other international organizations. So the FSHD Society has gone from, pretty much a lone ranger
Mm.
in the U.S., although there are other organizations that work on FSHD, but we've gone from a singular type of organization to an international type of organization. And we have organized research conferences all over the world. We have many, many countries involved in FSHD, and they look to us for leadership. And Mark and his team are providing that as we speak.
So the growth substantial by numbers for sure, from 4 to 20, not to mention all the volunteers that have been, added into the fold to keep it going.
Right.
Talk about like the programs, like what kind of programs were there when you roughly first started to what's offered now for people in the community?
Well, to be honest with you, we had it, when I started, if some patient or family member had a question, they would call, and Dan's mother
Mm-hmm.
would talk to them.
Yeah.
So she really she really was our entire patient advocacy group. Dan did a lot of work in terms of government and getting FSHD more involved with NIH and starting the Wellstone centers, which basically are 5 centers throughout the United States, which deal with FSHD. So it started out really small, and when I joined the society, it was we were still, if we got any checks, we were putting the checks together and bringing them to the bank. Nobody does that anymore. I mean, the phones weren't interconnected.
Yeah.
So if I called Dan, somebody else couldn't answer the phone if he wasn't there. So, I mean,
Wow.
it was a little, it wasn't, top of the line in terms of business management, but it was, we were doing a lot of good work.
Mm-hmm.
And now, we have a lot of different programs. Any person who has FSHD, who's been newly diagnosed, or someone who already knows they've been diagnosed, needs to get in touch with this society, because we have a lot of different programs. We have a program called Better Life, which allows people to input their data, which is maintains their confidentiality, but helps them to track their progress in terms of the disease. It helps them also get through and understand what clinical trials are going on, what they can get involved in, what's all the things that a person would need to know if. And we also have a program called Charity Navigator, which helps people to get essential services, research, and other services. So, I mean, those are just a couple of the things that we do. We have a network of 33 chapters. 30 of them are in the United States, a couple in Canada, and
Mm-hmm.
those chapters meet. Some meet 3 or 4 times a year. They go over information that's available regarding the disease. They also work hard to raise money in terms of walk and rolls and stuff like that. They also are leaders in the community and develop our network of people, and we have more than 5,000 people in our database, moving up closer to 8 or 10,000 who,
Holy cow.
and before
Yeah.
we had only a few hundred. So we really have expanded our scope in terms of patients and also in terms of researchers.
Talk about clearly, right? It is grown. Why do you think that is? Like, why has it grown? And it feels like quickly. I know you said that we've gone to like a very fast jogging pace now. At this point, it doesn't feel like it it's been or it feels like, I should say, it's been like a short amount of time for considering the growth that has happened with programs and people. What do you think has been fueling that?
Well, about 8 years ago, Dan Perez wasn't able to continue as president and CEO.
Mm-hmm.
So we realized that we had to get a new leader. And we put out a search, and we hired a search firm, and they came back with about 15 different candidates. And I led that committee, and our committee eventually netted it down to 3 individuals, and we ended up hiring Mark Stone. And so the reason for this growth is really due to Mark's leadership. He came in right away, and what he said is, we need to expand our scope. We need to bring in a lot more people. We need to get a lot more raving fans.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that, we embarked upon a chapter development program.
Mm-hmm.
So we have chapters in, as I say, 33 different communities throughout the US, and of the 33, 2 are in Canada. And so these committees, these chapters, they meet, they expand, they bring people into who have FSH and are interested in FSH. And before you know it, we have a lot more people aware of what we're doing. In addition, we run, lots and lots of walk and rolls.
Mm-hmm.
And the walk and rolls are very well attended. And, we had basically, people from just about thousands of people attend these walk and rolls. And each year we raise anywhere from $1 million to $1.3 million in terms of just donations. But it's more than donations. It's more that, it's the ability of people to see other people who have FSHD, who can interact with them. And, also we promote our patient conferences, which are held every 2 years in the city in the US. And those patient conferences are very, very important, and they bring in people. And I tell people, on Facebook or whatever, if they're new to FSH, they need to go to a patient conference, because they will meet a lot of people just like themselves who have that disease and who are struggling the way they are, and they can get a lot of information as opposed to just being alone and not knowing what's going on. So the society is truly a patient advocate. And because of that, I think it's grown exponentially, Tim, over these past 8
Yeah.
years. So again, I think that's all due to, we have clinical trial networks, which are places all over the United States where we have 33 countries involved. We have in these clinical trial networks, it makes it easy for people to go if they want to be part of a clinical trial.
Yeah.
So, and all of this information is coordinated so that all the researchers are doing the same tests and getting the same information. And so all of these things are just, if you add them all up, a better life, which helps people with their health platform, and also, as I said, Charity Navigator. Uh, and then, Charity Navigator is a way for people to get information. If they have issues about their disease and want some idea or a referral or uh, a method of exercise or whatever. We have your broadcasts, which are very important to us. We also have videos, which
Hmm.
are available. So I think all of these things together, cumulatively, have helped us grow a great deal.
It seems like the common thread with all that growth is, community connection, communicating with each other. Hence, it's kind of grown that community. When I first was diagnosed, I think it was similar to, I'm sure, as your wife and son when they were diagnosed. Like, is there anybody else that even has this? How do you find them? And I think people search or need that connection at some point. Some don't do that immediately. Some do, and then, but it feels like at some point everyone does at some point of their
Oh,
FSHD journey.
no question about it. And when you first find out about it, a lot of doctors don't know about it.
Right.
So even your primary physician doesn't know about it.
Mm.
I met a doctor the other day who's a neurosurgeon, um, and I asked him if he knew about FSHD, and he said he didn't.
Oh my gosh, a neurosurgeon, you said?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and he's a really top guy in his field, but he didn't know about the disease. So, there's a whole lot of things. For example, last week, FSHD did a little video on the conversation uh, about getting anesthesia for FSHD patients. Now,
Yeah, all that.
a lot of, I mean, that's an important thing for people who have FSHD. So these are the kind of, this is the kind of information you need, and it's available, but you have to go to the source to get it, you know, and
Right.
and that's why the website is a good place to start.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. It has everything you need, a one stop shop. For like the calendar, I think I visit that constantly. What's going on? What's happening? There's a Better Life login. That has a huge push lately. And of course, the fundraising events that roll out. When we have those fundraising events, you know, there are a huge chunk here. Of the finances are going to research, as far as I understand, like something near like 80%. Is that accurate? Do you think?
Um, well, we just put out a chart. Um, Research and patient programs is 79%,
79%. Yeah.
and then community engagement is 12%, and then administrative is 9%.
Hmm.
So uh, most of the money goes to research or patient programs. And patient programs are things that help our patients. Uh, uh, for example, we have all these chapters. We have people who are not volunteers who help
Hmm.
administer them
Yep.
and organize them. The chapter leaders are all volunteers.
Yeah.
But we have probably about 150 volunteers
Hmm. That sounds about right.
that need direction. We have we work with organizations throughout the world, and there's 33 countries that have FSHD uh, chapters, and so we
Hmm.
work with them to help them and coordinate. So we're trying to get everybody coordinated so that we're working and not duplicating our efforts and moving this forward. So right now there's approximately about 400 people who are actively scientifically working on the disease. When I joined the
Wow.
society, uh, Dan would say, there were probably only a handful of research papers that were written every year. So now you go from
Wow. Right. That's insane.
few research papers to
Yeah.
this inordinate amount of people working to solve FSHD. So it's we're moving in the right
That's fantastic.
direction. One of the things that Mark has done is he's contacted the NIH and the FDA, and especially the NIH, and we have had meetings with them to show them with our patients, what their issues are, so
Mhm.
that when we do get this treatment, the NIH will understand what markers are important in terms of showing the efficacy of a particular treatment. So we're working at way ahead. We're not waiting until we get something and then
Yeah.
going to the government. We're trying to educate them as we move along.
Mhm.
We've had at least uh, 2 or 3 meetings just with that. We've also been down to Washington, talked to some members of Congress. And so we're trying to touch all the bases, really,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
to get us a treatment and a cure. And the long, we don't want it to take a long time. We were hoping to have something this year. Uh, I don't think it's going to happen this year, but we did we have one trial that's in the second phase and one that's just begun in the first phase. So we did have Fulcrum, but they pulled it if while they were in the third phase,
Yeah.
and Fulcrum is giving us access to all the data that they collected,
Mm.
and we're going to be able to share that with the research community so that they can use that data to build upon what's
Mm.
been done by Fulcrum.
Yeah, it's correct, and it's not that it failed where it was meaningless. I think they're doing everything they can that whatever research, right, that it was there there was some meaning in it. I know we all were hopeful that something would come of it, and wrapping our heads around the fact that that's not the case is difficult, but it's promising when you have something in phase 2, right? There are other things down the pipeline, and in comparison to when you started with the society, that alone must be amazing to see that difference.
Hey, we didn't even know what DUX4 was
Yeah.
until, I would say until I was in the fifth or sixth year of my
Mm.
membership. So
Wow.
we began to understand DUX4, and from there, then companies got interested in trying to alleviate the manifestation of DUX4.
Mhm. Now, you and I met at face to face at the leadership conference that
Right.
FSHD Society puts together in Chicago, and I always laugh in Chicago in like late January, early February, which I find interesting, being someone from the Midwest, Wisconsin area, that we all gather in one of the coldest areas of the country during that time. But hey, it's a good place to do it. It has its pluses for sure. And when I first attended that, it was 7 years prior. It was just the first one, and there was maybe a handful of people in there, a lot more chapter driven. How are we building walk and rolls? It was that kind of conversation. When I was there, now fast forward to 7 years later, the whole feeling, energy of that meeting was completely different. I mean, there was still a lot of education in there, but it felt more robust. There was more things about it wasn't just okay, this is how you build a walk and roll, this is how you do a fundraising event. No. It was beyond that. This is what the FSHD Society is doing, and this is how, as leaders, volunteer leaders, you can help by doing this. So it feels like we're talking a lot about the then and nows. Did you go to any of the earlier volunteer summit meetings
Hmm.
prior to that one that I met you at?
Uh, no, I didn't, but I have been at just about every patient meeting,
Yeah, yeah.
patient conference. I've also been, I went to Europe for an international meeting. So I have participated
Mm-hmm.
in understanding and excuse me, and the the work and the excitement that goes on with these meetings. I wanted to go to the volunteer meeting, the first or second year that it was held, and for some reason I didn't. And then coming up this year, I said, you know what? These folks are doing such a great job. I think it would be good if the chairman of the board went out there and said hello. Now, I usually, when they have a walk and roll or whatever of events going on, I usually send an email, congratulating them on their efforts. But I wanted to do it in person this time and just add some ability of them to understand that the board of directors really supports
Yeah.
their work.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it was great to see you there. And I know you've done so much in the meetings you're talking about, like the patient meetings. Do they call those like the patient connect? Like when they had it in
Yes, that's
December,
what,
right? We're talking about the same thing.
yes.
Yeah.
Now, we
Those
won't have
are
one this year.
phenomenal.
We have
Yeah.
an international conference this year
Mm-hmm.
in Europe, and next year we'll have another patient connect.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Do you know where that one's going to be held, Jim, by chance? I don't.
you know what? It was mentioned, and I'm not sure. I'd rather not say because I
I
might
know,
be
right?
wrong. But in any event, we also provide some scholarship assistance for people who can't
Mm-hmm.
afford to travel there, and that's been helpful uh, uh, for a number of people. I think at least 30 people received scholarships last year to go to that. So if a person can't afford it, there's still a way that they can get
Mm-hmm.
there and experience the depth and the camaraderie and the understanding and the science of what we were all working on.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah. I mean, it's the basic connects, you're right. If you can make it, do it. If finances are an issue, you're right, there are resources to help you get there. I think it's a I think it's like a must go to event at least once if you
I
can.
think so. I
Yeah.
honestly think so. And also, people can participate remotely, although
Yes.
it's not the same, but at least there's a possibility of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So uh, if 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 anyone is diagnosed with FSH, they definitely should go to a patient conference. I mean, really, because you think you're all alone. Then you walk into this room and it's 200 other people who have the same issues you do. Maybe
Right.
not at the same level, but
Right.
everybody's concerned about that.
Mm-hmm.
And while I mention that, we have a board of directors, and there's 19 members on the board. We have 2 openings. We're allowed to do 21. Um, of the 19, 17 either have the disease or their family members have it.
Mm.
So that's incredible. These people work really hard. This is not a board that goes to a meeting 4 times a year, sits around a table, then goes home. They're
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
involved in committees. They're working on aspects of helping patients and developing cures and research. And so the board is very committed. They they want to have a cure as fast as anybody for themselves and their families. And so we're not a laissez-faire board. We're out there, we're doing it. Each board member is on at least 2 committees.
Mm-hmm.
And, and that's a big difference from many years ago. When I first joined, there weren't very many committees. And we've expanded and developed and found a need for more uh, assistance in many areas. So uh, people should know that there's a whole lot of people supporting them. And as I said, at least 400 people in research alone
Wow.
doing this work. And then everybody behind the scenes.
Now, the fact too, Jim, that you're still involved as heavily as you are. You talked about all the traveling you've done, the meetings you've attended. you're part of a board that is more roll up your sleeves type, let's get into it, than, as you mentioned, just kind of waiting and watching. But the fact that you're still that involved, um, your son had it, your wife had it. They have now passed, but you are still pushing on and you're still heavily involved. What continues to drive you to continue to do what you're doing?
Well, I think honestly, I mean, I don't want other families to
Mm-hmm.
experience what my wife and I did.
Yeah.
Uh, I have a grandson. I don't
Mm.
know if he has it or doesn't have it.
Right.
I certainly hope he doesn't have it because my
Mm-hmm.
daughter doesn't have it, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But
Right.
in any event, uh, it's just something that has to be solved.
Yeah.
And I really want to be part of that. And I've worked toward that. And I'm not going to do this forever, but I do think that I have 1 or 2 more years, and then I'll pass the baton because I've been chairman for 5 years.
Mm.
And I followed Bill Lewis Sr., who was a noted neurosurgeon and whose family was inundated with this disease
Oh, no.
terribly. So, I have a strong mentor and a person who I looked up to follow.
Mm.
And so, and every organization at some point needs to have, new ideas and new blood.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
I've loved doing this, and I hope that during my term we will find that treatment and a cure,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that would be really gratifying.
That'd be fantastic. Yeah, we all hope so too. Now, when you and I met in Chicago, one of the first things you said to me was about baseball. You're a baseball fan. You know the
Right.
game, and it's been driving me nuts. I know these questions have been fantastic. I love all the answers and the conversation we've had so far. But my God, man, you have a Jackie Robinson uniform behind you. Like, you got to tell me the story. How is that in your possession? Because that looks authentic.
Well, it is. What happened was I was invited to a golf outing
Mm.
in New Jersey, and it was for the benefit of the Jackie Robinson Foundation. And by the way, Yogi Berra was at that because
Oh,
it was
wow.
his club, his country club. So I went out there with a couple of friends and we played golf. And after golf, we everybody showers and changes clothes to go to dinner.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm walking into the shower naked, and out walks Yogi Berra naked. And I said, Yogi, where's your pinstripes? He looked at me and smiled.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh my
So,
God.
so at the dinner, they had lots of auction items and
Yeah.
things that you could purchase, and I ended up purchasing that jersey, which his wife signed because
Mm.
he
Yes, it
passed away
is.
many years ago.
Yeah.
But obviously, he was a great player, and I think he was out at home plate when he tried to steal.
Stop it. No, he wasn't.
Yogi says he was.
I bet he does. I bet he does say that. where
So,
where did your love of that of baseball start?
well, when I was a boy, I lived on the Lower East Side of Manhattan in a housing project,
Mm.
and I got the benefit of going to camp
Mm.
with a organization called the Children's Aid Society, and it
Okay.
was I think a 1 or 2 week camp. And anyway, they decided they were going to have a softball game,
Mm.
so there were tryouts. And when I went to bat, they didn't throw anything that I could possibly hit, and so I didn't make the team,
Yeah.
and I was devastated.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going to show those people I'm a good player. And I went home
Nice.
and I played ball.
Yeah.
And not too months later, I won MVP of the CYO League. and I played baseball. I played high school. I played sandlot. My team played in 5 different leagues in the summer, uh,
Hmm.
more than 60 games. So in the
Holy
course
cow.
of this season, I probably played about 80, 85 games,
Holy cow. That's a
right?
lot.
As a
Yeah.
boy, as a teenager. And I just got a love for baseball.
Yeah.
And later, I came to have children and I coached my children. And then later, when they were too old to be playing anymore, I
Mm.
coached other children.
Oh, fantastic.
And
Yeah.
that was fun, but it took up a lot of time.
Yeah.
And then finally I said, I still want to do this. But so I got certified as a baseball umpire. And then I was able to go to the game,
Hmm.
umpire the game,
Yeah.
start and then go home. I didn't have to drop off any kids at their house. I didn't have to pick
Yeah.
up any kids for practice. I
Yeah.
didn't have to do
Yeah.
any of that.
That
Just
just show
go
up to the game
umpire the
and leave.
game.
Yeah.
And I got paid for it. Not that I needed the money,
Mm.
and my car was the best car in the whole parking lot. But I got paid for it.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of fun. I did that for, I don't know, 5 or 6 years until the parents got to me.
Mm.
And
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
this,
Oh, yeah.
and and the coaches weren't that much better,
Hmm.
because a lot of them really didn't know the rules.
Right.
And as an
Right.
umpire, sometimes you have to teach the players the rules, and that's not always popular.
Yeah, no one loves rules, especially if they go against what they just
I
did.
know, and
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
nobody tried to kill the ump, but sometimes I was a little worried there.
I don't know. Now these days, when everything is on, someone's phone or being shot by video, and there's nowhere to hide. So the bad behavior, yes, by parents, by coaches. So if you're listening out there, stop doing that stuff. Just we need umpires. We need them to stay in the
Oh,
game.
they really
And the
do,
same
and the
problem here.
parents need to treat them right, because
Yes,
otherwise
absolutely.
the kids are not gonna have the ability to have a well refereed game,
Hmm.
game, so. But,
Yeah,
I watch, a lot of Yankee games. I get, Major League Baseball, and so I watch
nice,
a lot of games. I'm still a
nice.
big, baseball fan, and I live in Jenks, Oklahoma, which is about a 4-hour drive to, Kansas City.
Okay.
So every now and then, if the Yankees are playing in Kansas City,
Hmm.
I try to get up there, see a game. And Kansas City is an incredibly friendly place for people who need assistance.
Hmm.
You know,
That's good to know. Yeah.
it is really. I mean, one time I went up there and I was having trouble walking. I had
Hmm.
a walking stick, and I asked one of the attendants who were outside how to get to a certain gate. And he said, no problem. He waved to this lady who had a golf cart.
Yeah.
The lady took me and my wife in the golf cart right to the gate that I was supposed to be at. She
Beautiful.
waved to a guy. The guy comes out with the wheelchair, wheels me upstairs to
Holy cow.
seats,
Yeah.
and then later during the game comes by, sees how we're doing, and then after the game comes by, picks me up, brings me to with the golf cart,
Holy
drives
cow.
me to the
Full
door of my
service.
car. So
Yeah.
it's a great place if you have FSHD or
Hmm.
or any inability. Those people are really very very hospitable.
Phenomenal. So that's is that the Royals then? The Royals
Yeah. Yes.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
if
I got a soft
if
spot for the Royals. Yeah,
yeah. So I go up and try to see the Yankees play
that's
the Royals
awesome. Well,
occasionally.
the Yankees. I think now they go almost everywhere. I mean, everybody plays everybody. I think we had the Yankees here in Milwaukee not that long ago. I think just this last year. They travel well. Yankee fans travel well. There's no doubt. You guys are everywhere. If it
Well,
appears.
I think I read a couple of years ago that the Yankees have the most fans throughout the country.
Oh, I believe it.
Because of their history.
Yeah.
And I live in Oklahoma,
Mm.
and there's at least 5 baseball players who came from Oklahoma who played for the Yankees.
Oh, wow. I
So
didn't know
Oklahoma is like Mickey Mantle is the big guy.
that.
So
Yeah.
baseball is as popular here, and the Yankees are as well. But baseball, just in general, I just love baseball.
And I'm so glad that we talked about it because, yeah, when we met in Chicago, knowing that you were a baseball fan, now seeing the room that you're sitting in is littered with some great baseball pictures, I'm sure memorabilia in there. What's your favorite memorabilia you have baseball wise? What's your favorite piece?
Of what's on the wall?
Anything you got. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me just look at that. Well, there's a couple of players from the Yankees I really liked.
Hmm.
One is, of course, Mariano Rivera, and I have a picture of him. And Brett Gardner is another. Certainly Derek Jeter. And then you have the four great Yankee players, who came up together, the catcher, uh, uh, Masada, and,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Jorge.
Bernie, and Jeter, and that's very important to me. I have a Mickey Mantle, Ted Williams photo, which, two great players.
Hmm.
Ted Williams was awesome. Mickey
Yeah.
Mantle, he averaged over 300 batting average during his career. Then I have Yogi Berra and Don Larson. And that, I think, was one of the most spectacular games I ever saw. I was a young boy at the time, but Don Larson pitched a no-hitter in
Yeah.
the World
That's
Series.
wow.
You know,
Oh,
so
to see that live,
I
man,
don't.
it's amazing.
Actually, it was more than a no-hitter. It was a perfect game.
Hmm.
So nobody's ever done that before.
Mm.
Or since.
Yeah.
So I liked them all. I just, had a love for all of them, and I don't have too much more room.
A bigger wall. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm pretty much tapped out on that, unless I have to build a bigger house.
So before we let you go, I wanted to ask one more question, and that I've asked it of many guests that have come here, and especially for yourself being chairman of the board of directors for FSHD Society, it reflects me right into the core of getting involved. So if there's someone that is just thinking about it, they're not sure, maybe they're apprehensive to get involved with the FSHD Society, maybe even have an idea of a different community group that they would like to even start, what kind of motivational words would you have to give them to kind of push them into the edge of jump in?
Well, I think that if they consider the fact that they want to have a treatment and a cure for this disease, and I think if they think about they can just sit on the sidelines and do nothing or get involved. And
Mm.
so people who really want to do something about it, they need to get involved. And there's a lot of different ways to get involved. There's ways in which you can join a local chapter and help out and be a member of a local chapter. You can contact FSHD Society uh, for information about attending meetings and research conferences and stuff like that. Uh, there's obviously the need. Without money, we can't operate.
Mm-hmm.
So money, donations are the lifeblood of our community.
Truth.
Our
Yeah.
budget this year is nearly $6 million. And so, it's really important that we raise this money. So aside from fundraising, there's counseling of other patients, peer-to-peer counseling is very important. So there's a lot of opportunities, and basically, the Charity Navigator is a place to go uh, at the society, because they can then be directed to something that suits their interests and needs. And if they have a particular expertise, we have two board openings that, our board is incredibly talented people. And as I said, most of them are afflicted. We have people who are experts in, for example, we just brought on 4 new board members. And these board members, one of them has expertise in making sure of the legal aspects to getting these drugs approved in all the states. If
Mm.
and when we get a treatment, that has to be Medicare.
Right.
Medicare has to approve it in all the states. That
Yeah.
takes work. That takes knowledge. We have people who work on bringing these drugs, pricing these drugs. Uh, we have people who are researchers on the board. We have people who are business people. So we have a lot of different talent. And again, if you're really interested in working, join one of our committees, and then from there, perhaps you can be invited to be on the board or join the chapter and go from there, because all the chapters need additional members. And
Yeah.
and you'll get a lot out of it. You'll get a lot of knowledge. You'll meet some friends, and it'll add to your life.
Mm-hmm. As it seems like it is done for yours too. It's
Oh yeah, I
been
mean,
fulfilling.
well, I work with our friends of mine now, and I would have never known them over the years if I hadn't worked with them. And
Right.
I have a lot of respect for them.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Jim, for joining us today on this episode. It was fantastic. I'm sorry it took so long to get you in here. Shame on
No problem. Anytime, I am retired, so you get stuck one day.
me. And well then we might just have baseball stories only. I don't know. We might
Well,
just
we
be
can work on
complete.
that.
Yeah,
We can work.
absolutely. Well, thanks again, Jim. We'll
Thanks a lot.
talk to you soon. Yeah.
Take care.
Bye bye. Oh man, that was fantastic. Selfishly, the baseball stories were my favorite part, but I also enjoy the stories of the then and the now. I mean, I didn't know where the conversation was going to go. To be quite honest with you, Jim has such a robust background with the FSHD Society and the community, and then meeting him for the first time in Chicago was great. And you know, he had a scooter. He wheeled right over to my chair and said, I'm glad you're here. And I think it was right after I did a little bit of a speaking thing that I did there. That was really flattered to do. And he had kind words for me and, handed me his card. And I'm like, I got to have this guy on the podcast. And why haven't I yet? Look how long he's been involved. So to me, it was definitely a box that had to be checked to meet, talk, and share some time with Jim and see where this FSHD Society has come from and where it is now. The hope for the future with things being in phase 2 right now is just great. My biggest takeaway, I think, is what I mentioned to him within the conversation. I kept seeing within his storytelling of the FSHD Society that, and its growth, is that it's really about connection, community, and then communicating within the community to build it stronger, to bring more people in. He talked about people with talents that come to the table on the board or in chapter meetings or in committees, helping fundraising groups to help generate the funds they need to, so that near 80% of that funds goes to research and patient programs is huge. FSHD has the highest rating for a nonprofit organization. Those that don't know that is very difficult to obtain, and they've consistently have held that. So Jim being the chairman of the board, it speaks to that leadership. It speaks also, as he spoke so admirably about Mark Stone and his involvement. It's been about 8 years and the push that has come because of that man's motivation for our community as well. And I've had Mark on the episodes. I implore you to listen to those past episodes. And I was also kicked off events for us here when we do those virtual. And I just think that we have a great history of growth in the FSHD Society. I also believe that we need more people to get involved. Generations, right? Younger coming in. I know we have early onset group. I think those are the generations that are going to keep feeding this thing. Hopefully we won't have to go that far because we'll have a treatment and a cure. So the whole thing honestly gets shut down and maybe it turns into something different. But the point is, look at the traction, the progress that this has created in really a short time when you think about it in that scope. It's been amazing. And that's why I think where we are now, and we are in a good place. And I'm excited to see what not this year necessarily has to bring, but also 26. And maybe we'll be all working on our treatment plan at that point. So it's just phenomenal. So if you want to be a part of the show, I'd love to have you be on as a guest. I've reached out to other people, searching the community far and wide here for the FSHD Straight Talk program. That's what this is about. People in the community. Email me. That's the best way to get a hold of me. fshdradio@fshdsociety.org. Reach out. You can also find me on social media, Facebook, Twitter. I'm all out there. Just search my name. You'll find me. Feel free to direct message me there, DM me, drop me a DM, as they say. Let's connect. I want to be a part of that. And if you want to join the conversation, I'm also part of the FSHD groups out there and social media too, especially the Facebook app and Facebook world. And I have reached out to people through that community as well. So don't be surprised if you share a story on there, and I might just send you a message asking if you'd like to share that as well here on the podcast. So thanks again for joining us. Hope you enjoyed this episode with our chairman of the board of directors, Jim Chin. It's been a phenomenal episode, a lot of takeaways here, and I hope you enjoyed it. And we'll see you next time on the FSHD Straight Talk podcast. Thanks for listening.